get back into it. It is 30 November, last day of November 2022. Wow. This year has just flown by. Anyway, alright, so we're going to get back into this fantastic video from Dealey Plaza, UK, their Canterbury conference. This is Brian Edwards. He's a former policeman, and he's giving his point of view. Like I've been saying, he's been giving his point of view. If he was going to set up an assassination team, this is what he would do. And then he's also given his observations of looking at photos and looking at other things, that these is this guy is this and this guy is that, you know, spotters, advantage point, sniper positions, things like that. Really good stuff. I went over all this like last week before I even saw this video, and then I just stumbled upon this video, and now he's basically giving pretty close to what I was doing. I'm not even a former policeman or anything like that, but just use your common sense, your everyday common sense, whether you picked it up from watching movies, or whether you picked it up from your dad, or whether you picked it up from the military or the police. If you just break it down and use your common sense, glaring things just pop up at you here. Anyway, we're going to get back into this, and he's saying, was the kill zone marked? Now, I don't know if you've ever seen these movies, even that recent movie called, The Magnificent Seven. They marked the kill zone. When the enemy came into the kill zone, they had these little red flags, and that way their shooters, who weren't very good shots, could know they were within range and in that kill zone box. Also, you would do stuff, I've seen, footage and movies about Vietnam, where they would set up the claymores. Matter of fact, he taught us this in the Army. You set up the claymores, and then the distance out. I forgot what the kill zone distance. I think it's like something like 20 meters or something like that. I'm not exactly sure anymore. It's been a long time. But you know where the blast zone is going to be. So you want to wait until they get into the blast zone. That's the kill zone, the kill box. Okay? And you can mark that off either with trees. You can break a branch. If you've got a fortified position there that you're holding, or just bivouacking for the night, you're going to set these claymores in the direction of you think the enemy is going to be coming from, down a trail, to the west or whatever. And then you're going to mark your kill zone. That way if you're on watch. Remember Charlie Sheen was on watch in the middle of the night, and then he gave it to the other guy, and the other guy fell asleep, and then he lifts his poncho, and he sees the VC coming down the trail and into the kill zone. And the first thing he did was grab those claymores, because the claymores are going to throw out a rain, a buckshot of pellets. I don't even think they're metal. I think they're like little rubber plastic pellets that are just going to incinerate, just going to, take out a bunch of guys. And then you've got less guys coming at you. So, and they'd also have set up these claymore mines around these bunker positions and stuff. I don't think they used them in I don't think they used them in Iraq, because you didn't have mass formations of waves of people coming in. But that's what you do. You'd have your kill zone. In this instance, you'd have a sniper zone and have that marked. And if you're good at your position, we did training once where we sat up on these fortified positions up high on a hill, like you said, 10 feet up. We were up there, and then somebody had gone out before the enemy got there and placed markers, over on the left, over on the right, in this kill box. And we knew that every marker was like, I forgot exactly, 10 meters or something like that. And you knew your range for the M16 effective range, and you also knew your range for your grenade launcher. So you know about, just from this 45 position, we're up high, and it was an earthen entrenchment, and they had these little slit holes, at the top that we could look out and stick our weapon through. And so what they would do is, in the training, they'd have these little green, olive drab man silhouettes would pop up at different locations. Now, how anyone could, pop up at 20 meters, and then pop up at 30 meters, and then pop up at 10, and then pop up at 40. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But anyway, so it would pop up then, and then you would fire down at those locations, and I would just avoid the ones in the back, because you're going to miss those. 100, 200 meters, forget about those. And they give us a score from that. And I always did pretty good, But, because I would save my extra rounds that they'd try to get us to shoot at 100 meters or 200 meters, I'd save those for the closer guys. Anyway, so you got a kill zone. Like I said, let's go back to this Dealey Plaza UK. Fantastic website. Hold on one second. So here's a good little aerial view, much later view though. I think this is a memorial service around like a year or so later. But you can see it's very, very easy. You've got this area right here. You see how the trees, the plaza almost becomes a marker for the kill zone. This little L shape here, this marks your kill zone, and you see this is where the shooting started. About approximately where this truck is right there, that's when the first shots rang out. You see it's cleared the trees here, so they can fire from here. And then you notice the last shot's about right here, where this car is located, and it's just about the edge of these trees. So you got this L little shape area here. It's a great kill zone. And if you think about it, why not set up some guys on the rifles up in here when Kennedy's going down Main Street, okay? And then you could have a bunch of guys and a couple of buildings on here and just keep firing at him. Well, first of all, he can veer off out of the line of fire down one of these other streets, and you've lost him. Another good reason is, like I said, you've got this clear box here that everyone can fire at. If you've got guys in buildings here, they're firing, say they're firing from the top of the building, they're firing down, they're having to constantly move the rifle position to fire as Kennedy's car is leaving. When you got him here, you got him basically in the same angle, okay? So you're firing here, you're just lifting the rifle a little bit up here, 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 and here. If you're here, you're firing there, and then just pivoting. You're pivoting on the picket fence all the way to here. Anyway, this is your kill zone, this is your kill box. This is what we practice. This is what, we want to try to get the enemy in that kill box, okay? Because that's when you're going to do the most damage. If you've got the enemy arrayed up here, and you're firing from this position, they're going to overwhelm you, because you're only going to be able to fire at maybe these guys. Then you're going to have to move your weapon over here. That's going to take up more time. So this is a great kill zone, a kill box. They chose this specifically for a very, very good reason. And again, I just want to come back to, if emphasize this point. If Oswald is this revolutionary communist fanatic, he's the luckiest communist fanatic in the world, okay? Because not only did he get assigned to this building when there's another warehouse over here, he could have been there and, oh, shucks, I don't get to shoot the president today. But he gets assigned here. Not only are they renovating on the 6th floor where he can put his weapon, how lucky can you be, okay? So no one can, and then not only is the president coming by at lunch when everyone will be downstairs, out in front, or in the lunchroom, but you're the luckiest guy that you get this job a month and a half before the president even announces that he's going to be in Dallas and on this route. I mean, how lucky can you be that this road here on Main doesn't connect to the highway? Only this one does on Elm, which goes right past your work window there. Think about how lucky this revolutionary Marxist loser, who can't rub two nickels together and make a dime, how lucky Oswald is. I mean, think about it. Just the assassination gods came down and rained on this communist revolutionary, okay, and gave him his moment of glory in the sun. And again, what did he do when he had his moment to shine and tell the world, I killed Kennedy, because I'm a communist Marxist revolutionary? He clams up. He says nothing. Except, I'm a patsy. I didn't do anything. That's the only thing he shouts about. He doesn't say, yeah, I killed that Kennedy. That son of a bitch tried to kill Castro, and I killed him first. Nothing. The gods have shined down on this communist revolutionary with all these lucky little strikes, and he says nothing. His last words. Come on. Give us a break. Just like Oswald got led into the bottom of the basement to be slaughtered by Ruby, fed as a lamb to the wolves, Kennedy was brought into the kill zone here to be shot full of holes. And then they blame it on some stupid Oswald. Anyway, taking up my video time here. Okay, let's go back. Was the kill zone marked?
Was the kill zone marked? Absolutely, it was marked. It was marked for, I don't know when it was marked, but there were certainly some indicators that there was something different with the roadway. This is from the FBI reenactment in 1963. I'm sorry, the Secret Service reenactment. And clearly that's not the president's car because it's already gone. But anyway, looking to the south, across from where Zapruder stood, you can see at least 3 of the yellow lines, 3 of these yellow marks. These yellow marks.
Yeah, wow, look at that. Very clearly, they're still there. You think the assassins would come along in the middle of the night with a scraper and scrape that off? But no, they're right there. That's the kill box. Remember I told you? Hold on one second. What he's talking about is right here. That's where the kill box was at. And they even marked it. Wow, how obvious can you be? Now, did Oswald come down there in the middle of the night before, with some paint and mark it? Is that why he slept late? Because he would, caught a taxi over there with holding a bucket full of paint and marked it?
Marks are about, 6 or 7 feet long, and they're on the top and the face of the curb, and they're about 40 feet apart. At least these are. I think these were visual signals for people behind who could see the top of the curb, and people on this side, the shooters on this side of the street, who could see the face of the curb. In other words, these were used as designated kill zones. This is zone 1, this is zone 2. If he gets outside zone 2, then somebody else will be shooting. That'll be their zone. That makes sense?
Wow.
That's what I'm thinking. From a tactical standpoint, I don't think Lee Harvey...
See, he nailed it. He nailed it. This is exactly what we did in the military. That's why I say this was a military operation, because when you look, if you're a civilian and you've never been in the military or the police, and you don't know these things are done in training, none of this would stick out to you. But if you've been there, and believe me, I wasn't like some super soldier, I just did an admin job, and then they took us out into the field. My admin job just happened to be in the field sometimes, and then they would train us. We'd have skilled, specialized, special forces guys act as aggressors, and then they would train us on how to survive. Okay, because you're carrying your typewriter around in the field. It's hard to survive if no one has trained you. So we would have these guys come in on our field exercises when we'd have them, and they'd show us. They train us what to do. And this is why I'm fighting this stuff, because this is just basic stuff that I was told and I was taught. Now, if you've got skilled guys that are training people, like Cuban revolutionaries, they've been in the military, in the Marines, in Korea, and World War II, Special Forces, in Laos. They know all this stuff. And so they're setting all this stuff up. You see, they got these markers. Just I was talking to you about 10, 20, 30 meters. Okay? Very, very simple.
Harvey Oswald did anything, but I don't think he was the one who went down there with his little paint bucket and a roller and painted these curb marks on the curb on the day of the assassination.
Wow, I just said that.
Said when she walked across the street when everybody else ran to the grassy knoll, she stepped on one of those yellow marks, and she says, I looked later, saw yellow paint on my shoe. It was fresh paint. It was still drying. It was probably done at night, and it didn't have time to dry. And so therefore, it's going to be still wet until the sun gets on it for a couple hours. Well, it was a cloudy day. That paint was still wet. Somebody painted those marks for a reason. I think the reason was that it designated kill zone. This was a picture taken the next day from the same location where Zapruder was standing, and that yellow mark is clearly there. And you can see.
Wow, look at that. Very clear. Very, very clear. Let me show you something. All right, so here's a good one from Ukraine. You can see here's the box. They got them boxed in. See these buildings here? This is boxed them in. It's no different than if it's in the forest or a canyon in Afghanistan. They've got them bunched up right here. You see how the armored columns completely bunched up. And then they bring in the drones. The drones are observers, okay, so they can see what's going on. And then watch this. You take out the guy in the front. You take out the guy in the back. Everyone else is trapped. And then you just start picking them off. You see, they blew that one, they blew that one. And then it's a kill box. It's a kill zone. Nobody can get out. Nobody can back up. They've got, go back to it again. They've got buildings to the left, buildings to the right. Armor's bunched up. You kill this one, you kill that one. In the rear, kill the one in the front. And it's a turkey shoot. Okay? Same thing with Kennedy. All right, we'll get back into it here.
See it in the Zapruder film. You can see it from about frame 310 to 318 or so. You can see Jackie climbing on the trunk, and you can see that yellow mark that stands out like a sore thumb. During the reenactment, you can still see it. Here they are right here. There's one there, and there's one there. We know they're there. And people will say, well, those weren't there in 1961. Well, I don't have any pictures of that, but I'll take your word for it. Here's another picture from the Dallas Police Crime Lab. Good training. You don't take a picture of yourself on the crime scene. Anyway, here's one of the marks. Here's another mark. Here's another mark. We know they're there. Here's the Zapruder film. 306, frame 306. There's one of them, and 350. There's another. Definitely designated kill zones.
Wow.
And there's two more down here. Cops would have looked at that and go, what the heck is that for? For those of you that drive, and I'm assuming everybody in this.
Let's see. Look at this. Almost exactly as soon as Kennedy enters this kill box, he's shot in the head. Wow.
350, there's another. Definitely designated kill zones. And there's two more down here. Cops would have looked at that and go, what the heck is that for? For those of you that drive, and I'm assuming everybody in this conference is able to drive a car, even though we drive on the wrong side of the street. But anyway, yellow marks on a curb in America means there's no parking, but it's usually a lengthy stripe that says, okay, you can't park from here to here. Well, what's the purpose of having one that's about 6 or 7 feet long and there's another one down here? Does that mean you can't park here and you can't park here? I don't know what they were for. I've been trying for years to get to the city to see if they had some guy go out there for the motorcade route to put stripe.
And let's be clear. The assassins didn't have to put the markers, okay? The city could have put the markers years before, but they can use the markers because they know the distances in the same way. So it doesn't matter if they were there in 61 or 62 or 63 or 60 whatever. They can still use the markers regardless of who put them there.
Stripes on the curb, it probably didn't happen that way. All right, high ground firing positions. I'm going to kind of go through this real quick. Here's where I would have put the people. First one is obviously from the past window. We want to have somebody look up and see a gun in that window, like that. I've always been inquisitive about this. If this is a sniper's nest and what it looked like in the Dallas police crime scene search team after they moved the boxes, but if these boxes were there, did they use the Oswald or whoever use this as gun arrest? If so, where's the boxes to duplicate? If you're going to reenact something, use it as it was when you took the picture original. Does that make sense? You want to make it look the same. Well, Oswald didn't have a tripod, and he had his boxes in front of him like this. I don't know what this is supposed to represent, but it doesn't make any sense to me. He wouldn't be admitted in court. The west wing, the west end of the book depository, this is the view you would have had as the motorcade proceeded on down Elm Street. Here's from the high floor of the Dow Tex building. Fire escape is going to add extra concealment. Remember, people aren't going to turn around and look up. They're probably not going to turn around. But if you can fire from inside the shadows of these windows, you're golden. This picture probably hasn't been seen before. I got this from Gary Shaw. This was taken in 1967 by a member of Jim Garrison's investigative team.
Wow, that's a good shot.
They came to Dallas and took some pictures. Why they went up in the Dow Tex building, I'll leave that up to your interpretation. But there's the book depository. This is the Dow Tex. This is what it would look like if you had a rifle sticking out of that window.
Wow.
And the target is moving in a straight line, right, for at least, maybe 100 feet. That's a great time to shoot.
And look, you can even see those markers right there. Let's go back. Let's see. Do you see it in the Garrison photo? Now, you can't see it there, but look at that.
Pictures, why they went up in the Dow Tex building, I'll leave that up to your interpretation. But there's the book depository. This is the Dow Tex. This is what it would look like if you had a rifle sticking out of that window.
Yeah, you see it? There it is right there. There's another one right there. Perfect. And then if you've got a guy with an umbrella, pumping the umbrella, he's telling you they're in the kill zone, they're in the kill box. Fire. Looks that way to me.
The target is moving in a straight line, right, for at least, maybe 100 feet. That's a great time to shoot. Here's a better perspective. Here's the book depository. You're inside the Dow Tex building. The fire escape's been removed.
Wow.
It's no longer in the way. The next place I put is the low floor of the Dow Tex building. You're shooting right down the same line as the target's going. I could teach somebody to do that that's never picked up a rifle. I could teach you to do that in 5 bullets. You're going to hit the target. It's the target's moving in the same line as your gun. You don't have to swing it left to right or up or down. You're in the same line as the target. Next one is the top of the jail. That's a great spot. Look at the view you had. Obviously,
wow.
The cars are going the wrong way, but this was the 1960s 16, before they changed the traffic pattern. This probably hasn't been seen before. This is from the top. This picture was taken from the top. Again, this is that Jim Garrison's investigator, taken from the top of the courthouse onto the top of the jail. So all this area is open. There's the book depository. All this area could be, a shooter could stand here and a spotter could stand over here.
Wow.
Low ground. There's 4 positions on the low that would be ideal for ambush. To the right, was there a shooter on the low? Yeah, there's probably a couple of them over there. The target is the blue box here. Good concealment. You've got a fence for cover, but it's not great cover. If they fire back, will not stop a bullet. Gene Hill said that somebody was shooting from the corner of the fence. Bill Newman and Gail Newman, immediately after the assassination, were taken to a local television station and basically gave testimonial on television. The bullet hit him in the head, and it came right over our heads. Here's the Newmans here. The bullet came right over our head. Bill Newman even says, and his quote is, "It came from the garden behind us." Well, behind us is over.
Again, people don't dive when bullets are not, near them. People dive because bullets are coming over them. You see? These people dive because the bullets are coming over them. These 2 guys are standing right here, but they don't dive. Why? You see right here? These people are diving because bullets are coming from the Dowtex and the book depository. These people dive down on the grass because bullets are coming from the grassy knoll. Pretty simple. Like I said, if you just strip away all the bullshit and look at it logically using common sense, you know what happened. It'll tell you what happened.
Not up here where the book depository is. Zapruder himself said, yeah, the bullet hit him in the right side of the head. And he says, I thought the shot was coming from behind me because that's where the cops went. He says, I was probably in the line of fire.
Wow.
They didn't take that as important information. Well, you're probably mistaken. Well, he wasn't mistaken. It's his first impressions. He doesn't have time to make up a story. Charles Bren, who was in Normandy, the invasion of Europe by the Allied forces, he certainly knew, and I've talked to him many, many times before he passed away. He said, I was standing in the line of fire. He says, that bullet, somebody was shooting from across the street right in front of me. Well,
wow.
That's pretty important information. He didn't say anything about that. All the times I interviewed Charles Bren, he never said anything about the book depository. Never said anything about any of the buildings around him or to the right of him. He said, all I can tell you is what it came from across the street. So where we're talking about is...
So let's go over that real quick. So you've got Charles Bren right here. He's saying bullets are coming from across the street. You've got Marianne Moorman and Gene Hill right here. They're saying bullets are coming from across the street. You've got the Newmans right here. They've dropped down because bullets are coming over their head from behind them. You've got Mr. Zapruder standing on the pedestal here saying bullets are coming from behind him. Okay? You've got a policeman stopping, running that way. You got another one running that way. And eventually everyone else is running towards the grassy knoll. But yet, the Warren Commission, we're going to find out if the Warren Commission used these people's testimony. Okay? The Newmans, Marianne Moorman, Gene Hill. We're going to see if they used their testimony at all. And then this is the Babushka lady, who they never have identified, but that woman came out in the 80s and it was her, which I don't believe. But when you got all these people, even Wesley Frazier, we just read his testimony, said it was coming from his right. If the book depository is over here, he's facing the street. His right would be the picket fence. You got all these people, and there's even more, saying it came from the picket fence, but they completely ignored that. Because to not ignore that would be to say there was someone else firing but Oswald. And to say that would be there's a conspiracy. Why would they do that? I don't know who did it. I know Oswald didn't do it. That's all I know. We're going to keep going into this evidence and learn more. The Warren Commission, for whatever reason, was selling bullshit and ignoring facts and ignoring the evidence. You can't conduct an investigation and ignore all the evidence and testimony of people. You know, people have found bullets and holes here. You've got right here, here, and here. You've got range markers, yellow curbs or yellow markers for the kill zone. Again, the president's protection was all removed. The Secret Service, the policemen. That screams conspiracy of some kind. And again, back to the definition of a conspiracy. It's not some wild-eyed, crazy uncle QAnon crap. A conspiracy, people are convicted of conspiracy every day. One of the Proud Boys just got convicted of sedition and conspiracy with his Confederates, attacking the Capitol. That's the government's case. There was a conspiracy amongst those groups of Proud Boys and other people to commit sedition and trespassing and all kinds of other crimes they were convicted of. So don't let people blow you off and say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. Bullshit. If anything is a conspiracy theory, it would be the Warren Commission. It was a conspiracy to shut up the facts, a conspiracy to ignore the evidence and ignore the testimony of people that were there, like the Newmans, Gene Hill, and Bren. All right, so we'll keep going. So we're going to stop there with him. We're going to keep going with, good old Bill Wesley Frazier. All right, we're into the bag. They're talking about the bag, all this crap about the bag. Okay? And again, if Oswald was holding that bag and putting that bag and folding that bag and carrying that bag, how come his fingerprints aren't on the bag? They have a picture, they say, of the bag near the sniper's window. But now they can't find the picture anymore. But they say that Oswald carried the rifle in that bag, but they can't find Oswald's fingerprints on the rifle or the bag? Please, give us a break. I think that the governments would have manipulated the jury so much and isolated them and hammered home so much, just this guy, this guy, this guy. And the way people believed back then that the government, the FBI, couldn't lie, they were honest, white as pure as snow, that they probably would have convicted Oswald. But a jury nowadays, especially after, what's this, the TV show CGI or CNI or whatever that is called, and after the OJ trial, jurors are more skeptical. Wait a minute, you say he fired the rifle and he shot the president, but he was spotted at the same time or just a few minutes before drinking a Coke on the second floor by one lady, and then spotted by the policeman within 90 seconds after shooting the president? And then his fingerprints aren't on the rifle and his fingerprints aren't on the paper bag. You say you spend so much time with Wesley Frazier going over saying that he brought the rifle in the paper bag, but they don't mention that, a good defense lawyer can mention that, hey, wait a minute. So if they say that he went to the rifle range and they say that he went to shoot Walker with the same rifle. And did he carry it in a paper bag, or did he carry it, on the bus in the blanket? Why wouldn't he carry the rifle to school, the school book depository, in the blanket? What's so important about this bag? Okay? Why not just say, hey, Wesley Frazier, well, Lee, what's in the blanket you got there? Oh, curtain rods. Remember I told you yesterday I was going to bring curtain rods. Oh, okay, Lee. I see. You brought curtain rods in the blanket. Yeah, that's the only thing I could get to carry it. But Lee constructs this flimsy paper bag and doesn't tie it off on each end, just folds it underneath on each end. When things are in a bag, try this. Take your groceries, put them in a paper bag, and lay it down in the back seat of the car, and then go driving around. Okay? Maybe even fold the bag at the end, at the opening end. And see how many of your groceries have spilled out into the back seat and onto the floor. How many cans have rolled out and popped through that bag, the opening of the bag. But we're supposed to believe that he put a rifle, a metal and heavy stock wood rifle, in this paper bag and just folded it underneath and put it in the back seat. And when Wesley Frazier went and made a right turn, the stock and the metal from this rifle didn't go shooting out of the bag or popping through the bag. I mean, I don't know how many right turns Wesley Frazier would have made from Irving to Dallas, but I guarantee you a couple of those, that bag would have been shredded. So what's so important about this paper bag? The importance is they hoped that Oswald would have his fingerprints on it. They could find the fingerprints, but for some reason they weren't able to find his fingerprints. If you had a blanket, it's not going to leave fingerprints. Anyway, also, after Oswald is dead, you could take the palm print and imprint it onto the paper bag. Anyway, so it's under the armpit. I mean, it just goes on and on about this stupid paper bag, okay? Alright, so let's just stop there. I'm going to roll forward and see if I can find anything worth anything. Because they go on for, 15, 20, 30 minutes on a stupid paper bag that doesn't make any sense. And here's an interesting one. Did he have any particular associates around there that you knew of? Frazier. Not that I knew of. I say he didn't mingle with other guys like the rest of us. The rest of us usually joked back and forth with practically everybody who worked around there. But he usually kept to himself. That was the only time he talked to anybody, was when he wanted to know something about a book or something like that. So Oswald was all business, professional. Okay? Now, when you read the testimony of people in Russia, and Oswald with his co-workers, he was jovial, went to parties, he hung out with people, he was the life of the party, okay? When you read testimony of people with Oswald in the Marines, he's jovial, he talks to people, he jokes around, he goes with them to the clubs, things like that. This to me, and again, let's remind ourselves, the Warren Commission is trying to paint Oswald as a rabid, radical, Marxist, communist revolutionary. Okay? Oh, and then when you read the testimony of the White Russians, the conservative White Russians, anti-communists, he's a rabid, radical, communist nothing in America is good, everything is bad, Russia and Cuba are great. But then when you see him at work, he doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't try to advocate communism to anybody. He's not passing out flyers to anybody. Oh, and then there's the other Oswald in New Orleans, who's passing out flyers, who's getting into fights with Cuban right-wing guys, who's going on radio shows and TV shows saying he's a communist, Marxist. But in Dallas, he's all to himself. He's completely different than the other Oswalds that we have testimony of. Why is that? Isn't that strange? What's going on with Oswald, huh? He went from advocating in the streets of New Orleans and passing out flyers and getting in fights and going on talk shows and going on radio shows and saying he's a Marxist to completely shutting his mouth and saying nothing. Where is this New Orleans Oswald? Where is this jovial Russian Oswald? Where is this jokester Marine Oswald? Very strange. Very, very strange. Anyway, now I'm not an advocate of the two Oswalds where one was Russian born and was switched with Oswald and all this kind of BS, because nobody would know that in 1939 or 1940 something. Okay? But I am an advocate that there were other people imitating Oswald, buying cars or trucks to send to Cuba, test driving a car a couple of weeks before in Dallas, and all this excitement. Another guy shooting at someone else's target at a target range and saying, "Oh, I thought I was shooting at that damn communist Kennedy." And then maybe even in Mexico City, someone advocating to get into Cuba and to Russia and crying in front of the Russian agents and stuff like that. So definitely, possibly someone was imitating Oswald to further paint him as a communist. But I don't buy the two Oswalds that were raised from birth to be these super secret agents. It's just too much. That's just too much to swallow. Okay? From 1939, we didn't know the Cold War was going to happen. We didn't know Russia would win the war against Germany. So how could they have this Russian agent, Oswald, two of them born in 1939, and raise them parallel lives to bring him up to from 1939 to killing Kennedy? No one even knew Kennedy was going to be elected president. Okay? So it's just, that's bizarre. That's too much. Too much to swallow. Anyway, we'll keep going. What else does Wesley Frazier say besides... See, now they're just rehashing. They go back and they rehash everything they were asking before the same way again. Again, they ask him about the jacket. Did he have a jacket or coat with him? Yes, sir. What kind of jacket or coat did he have? That, like I say, gray jacket. That same gray jacket. And earlier, they show him the jacket that was found in the domino room, which they say that Oswald left in a hurry. And Wesley says it's not the same jacket. Alright, now they're back to the bag again. Mr. Frazier, we have here exhibit number 364, which is a sack, in that we have put a dismantled gun. They don't say the same gun, but they just say a gun. Don't pay any attention to that. Will you stand up here and put this under your arm and then take hold of it at the side? Now, is that anywhere near similar to the way Oswald carried the package? Well, like I said, I didn't pay much attention. Frazier, that's his saving grace. He didn't pay much attention. But then he goes into details about what he saw Oswald do. Turn around. I didn't pay much attention, but when I was paying attention, I'd say he put it down here, like the bottom would be short. He cupped his hand like that, and say like walking from the back, if you had a big arm, well packaged there, and the physical features, if you could see it like that, walk towards the package, but walking from behind, you couldn't tell much about the package whatsoever from the width. Again, it's not stapled or tied off at the end, so don't you think if Oswald was cupping something that something might fall out, he's risking something falling out of the package. Could he have the top of it behind his shoulder, or are you sure it was cupped under his shoulder there? Yes, because the way it looked, like I say, he had it cupped in his hand. Now let's just be clear, the package is about 2 feet long. The rifle broken down is 3 feet long. So it would be sticking out of the package. Very, very clear. Alright. So now he goes into it again. Here's another one saying it came from the grassy knoll, but they ignore this part. Well, I say, we found out it was shots. I see some of the other people around, and they said they were staying there. Said that it was what it was, downward right back from us, like where we were standing. If we were standing somewhere else, you might have gotten a different opinion, but from where we were standing on the steps, then it sounded like back down to the right. So again, if he's on the school book depository, so there's Billy Lovelady, Wesley Frazier's behind him. This is his right shoulder, there's the left shoulder. If it's coming from his right, that means it's coming from this direction. That means it's coming from the grassy knoll. Right there. Clear as a bell. It's not coming from above him. The first shot comes from the right. Pretty clear. Also, let's make one last thing really clear. It says, I have no further questions. Anything from you, Senator, says the chairman. Okay? Now, the chairman is Warren. It even says Mr. Warren. So if Warren had no idea that there were shots coming from the grassy knoll before this testimony of, September 1964? He does now. Let's see, when is this? He does now. So Warren has no excuse. He knows that people are saying testimony, shots are coming from the grassy knoll and not from exclusively from the 6th floor. Alright, so we'll go into Wesley Frazier's next testimony. So they bring Wesley Frazier back in July, and they ask him more questions. Alright, well, I'm going to go through this, see if I find anything worth interesting. Again, Mr. Libeller, emphasis on the lie, goes straight back into the package again. Just to clarify. Let's see, what else we have here. This is this is the Garrison case versus Clay Shaw. They brought in Wesley Frazier to testify on 13 February 1969. And let's see if we have anything interesting in here. So it's basically the same as the Warren Commission. In the beginning, they asked him when he came to Irving. He moves there September 1963, living with his sister, Lynn Randall. And he hears about a job he specifically came to Dallas to get a job. He hears about a job at the Texas School Book Depository at 411 Elm Street. He starts there in September, and in October, he met Lee Harvey Oswald, who just started after he comes back from Mexico. All right, so we'll get into more questions here. So basically, he's talking about Lee rides home with him. He rode home every Friday for the weekend, except 1 week and prior to the assassination. He told him he was getting his driving test on that Friday. So he says that Oswald liked to play with the kids in the neighborhood. They'd be playing baseball or something like that. Again, we're struck with this contrast of different Oswalds. You have the advocate in New Orleans, you've got the jovial guy in Russia, you've got the jokester in the Marines. But when it comes to Frazier, he's silent. All he talks about with Frazier are the weather or his babies. Oh, we're having nice weather today, yeah. And my wife's having a baby next month, and so that'll make 2 that I'm having. And yeah, and the next week the weather should be okay, and so I think I'll go shoot the president. I mean, come on, folks. All right. Again, we're going to. He came up to me and asked me if he could get a ride home with me, and I told him sure. I naturally noticed it was not Friday, and asked him why. He replied he was going home to see his wife to get curtain rods, which he had bought for him, and was going to put up some curtains up in his apartment. He said his wife had bought some curtain rods for him. Yes. Did he take his home? Did you take him home that night, the night of November 21st? Yes, I did. Do you recall any conversation you had that night? No. No more than the usual period, like talk about the weather and children. Did you know the President of the United States was going to pass in front of the book depository the following day? I would say a couple of days before the parade, he was scheduled to come through Dallas. Several of the newspapers had various routes showing he would come down the downtown area. Have you ever come? You have to come right by the school book depository to go out to the freeway there. And again, a lot of people say, why wouldn't they have gone straight down Main and got on the highway there, where there's no entrance ramp onto the freeway from Main, so that's why they had to go to Elm. Did I also mention any time of the ride on the 21st anything about the pending visit of the President of the United States? No, he did not. At any time were you working with him, did he mention the President of the United States? No, sir. Did he ever engage him in political conversation that you recall? No, sir. Again, it's a different Oswald, because the Warren Commission wants you to believe Oswald is this radical, revolutionary communist who engages in, advocating for Cuba and communism and passing out flyers, hands off of Cuba in the streets of New Orleans, gets in fights in the streets of New Orleans, goes on to the radio and the TV and advocates for communism and advocates for Cuba. But yet, when he comes to Dallas, he's completely silent, doesn't advocate with his co-workers or anyone on the street there. And again, I have to say, if Oswald was passing out flyers in New Orleans, why wasn't he passing out flyers in Dallas before New Orleans and after New Orleans? I mean, apparently, he was willing to shoot Walker in Dallas. Why wasn't he passing out flyers on the streets of Dallas? Doesn't make much sense, huh? Anyway, keep going. He was at the back door and went to the car, and we went to the car together. He got in on the other side. I got in on the regular side. The driver gets in. As I sat down, I glanced over my shoulder and saw the package lying on the back seat. I asked him, I said, "What's that?" He said, "That's the curtain rods I told you about." I said, "Oh yes?" I didn't look at the package anymore and didn't think any more about it. Again, he always says he wasn't really paying attention, but he paid attention to the package in the back seat. And how much of the back seat did the package occupy? I would say roughly around 2 feet, give or take a few inches. Again, the rifle broken down is at least 3 feet or more. Now, this is 1969, so they're asking Frazier, has he been in the military? Frazier entered the military, I believe, 1965 or so. Which branch of the service? Army. Were you in the infantry? Yes, sir. I had infantry training. Did you ever have rifle training? Yes, sir, I did. During the course of their training, did you ever have occasion to break down a rifle? Yes, sir, quite frequently. What kind of rifle did you use in the service? An M14. Approximately how long was the M14 that you used? I believe the correct length is 30 some odd inches. So we're talking 3 feet, what is that? Hold on one second. 12, 30, almost 3 feet. About 2.5 feet actually. 30 inches long? Yes. Did you ever break the rifle down? I don't think that's correct, because the M14 is a little bit longer than the M16, and I know the M16's got to be at least 3 feet. Alright, we'll stop there. Okay, he's going into when he breaks down the rifle in the Army. How long was the broken down rifle? When you break a rifle down, such as the Army weapon, you can break it down into many pieces. The first part is where you take the barrel off the stock, and that reduces the size tremendously. How much did you reduce the rifle? To be honest with you, I didn't ever measure it because I didn't have any reason to. When you say it was reduced tremendously, would it be by half or what? Objection. The witness said he doesn't know. I will permit the question. Do you have any idea what would be the longest size of the package if an Army rifle is broken down? You mean the one I broke down? Yes, the one you broke down. I would say approximately 20 some odd inches, because the barrel was the longest part. Wow, they're almost making the case for the accused, huh? Let's see. Alright, so we'll skip here. Alright, interesting. So, in his original statement with the sheriff's office, he says he didn't see Oswald at all after he left the car. But then here he says, yes, I saw him several times that morning. He was walking around filling orders. They even asked him to repeat it. He was walking around filling orders. We learned that morning that the president was due to come by about 12 o'clock, so you don't get to see the president of the United States every day, so we all went outside to watch the parade. So that's interesting, isn't it? That the president was supposed to come by at 12, so everybody went outside. They were told the president was coming at 12, so that would clear nearly everyone out of the building, okay? Because they're all going outside to watch the president at 12. But the president doesn't come until 12:30 when he's shot. So that means nearly everyone is out of the building, although not everyone is out of the building, because Victoria Adams and her co-worker were in the building. There was another lady in the building trying to get into one of the offices to use the phone after she heard the president shot. So not everyone was out of the building. Alright, so we're going to stop here. and continue tomorrow and keep going down this way, okay? Alright, take care. Bye.